Okay, I did some sanding and I realized that having a power sander for a project like this would probably be a fantastic job. Not a belt sander, of course, but one of those smaller units that accepts a triangular kind of sanding pad could be extremely useful if you wanted it to be super smooth all the way around. Got my light hooked up and we're more in the market now. Alright, it's good enough. If I sit here much longer, I'll start obsessing over it. Alright, let that dry, and we'll get some dry lock on it. Alright. For those who watched my last video on the skinned pumpkin, this one, as you can plainly see, is not skinned. And as I said many times during that video, if you are not skinning it, it's a white exterior, so it can be bright. So this is the fabled, vaunted white exterior. And after painting is done with this, then the whole pumpkin should come out a very nice bright orange, much like a pumpkin from a pumpkin patch. A bit more realistic, a little bit less vile and creepy. I am painting this one with dry lock, just because I'm giving it a try. And I don't want to take any kind of chances with the weatherproofing on this one. Alright, so there's the white undercoat that will bring out any color that we want without it being black and having it sink in and be incredibly dark. It should be a nice bright pumpkin by the time we're done. Hopefully, we'll come up with a good color scheme, and hopefully even more so, I will have all the paints that I need to get this sucker the way I want them. I might even experiment a little bit with my airbrush that I have never used before, just to see what we can do. Hi everyone. I have just a few moments ago uncorked an airbrush. I bought it about 6 months ago, figuring someday I might need an airbrush, and now I find myself rather pressed for time on this project, so I'm going to give it a shot and see what kind of results I can get. No guarantees, and I'm really hoping that if I do screw up, I get one of those wonderful, joyful, thank God I can go back over it with another paint kind of moments. Because the normal way that I do the pumpkins and the coloring takes a while to put a brown into a crevice and then slowly bring it back up from layers of orange. I'm hoping an airbrush will give me the control that I need. I will try to do some sort of tutorial later on that does not involve an airbrush for all of you folks who go, "Airbrush? What sorcery is this? I know not of this airbrush. Burn the witch." But we'll see if I get to that. But for the moment, I'm going to try to airbrush this and hope to hell that I can figure out airbrushing in the next, 30 minutes or so. Strange warnings on the side of this airbrush cleaner fluid have compelled me to use my respirator, just because I don't trust any fumes at all here in my kitchen. My closed, non-ventilated kitchen. So, respirators going on while I screw around with this. And if suddenly I start saying, "Luke, I am your father," somebody kill me. Alright, if any of you have never airbrushed before, this thing is kind of just like a more fine control spray paint. I'm kind of digging it so far. This thing really gives a beautiful amount of control. And everybody out there who's already used an airbrush is going, "Yeah, of course it does, dummy. Welcome to the club." And if anybody's going, "What the hell is that humming?" That is the compressor for the airbrush. It's giving me my air pressure. I just found my new favorite painting toy. It seems to be drying relatively quickly too. airbrushes.
I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried.
So, having found my new best friend here, this amount of painting would have taken me days, easily. Between coverage, blending, and getting everything in great shape, this little number was absolutely perfectly what I needed. Now, to speak a little bit more on the fancy Carve blending projects, if I had not had the airbrush, this would have been a prolonged period of time with me with a regular brush, starting down a brown in any of the deep recessed junctures, then taking the orange and going over it, slowly using a dry brush to blend the brown and the orange, where the airbrush does that pretty seamlessly all in one shot. The only problem I've got here is that these bands look really, really dark and stark to me. I don't know if I care for that. But what I should be able to do is once it dries, and you may have seen it already a little bit, as soon as this dries, you can go back over it with the airbrush and relighten it. Because as I look at it in the camera here, I'm really just seeing these dark stripes, which I don't like. I want a more smooth blending. So I'm going to go over those several times, I have a feeling, just to get that a little bit more blended and less so it's like, hey, here's a line, poof. That just doesn't seem cool to me. Just examining the color on the camera, so I have a set of third eyes, and yeah, still seems very liney to me. So in the future, if I have a project like this, I'll take a very light line, almost just a half a spritz down, kind of like I have up on the stem here, just very, very, very light. Go over it and then build up the orange from there, because I want more orange. But this should be really easy from what I'm already seeing of lightening for the orange to just supersede the brown in many cases and get rid of it. Not get rid of it, but mask it out. Like right there, this line's gradually going away. Should be pretty slick. Alright, so the front will need some actual hand painting, because no way is this getting done entirely with airbrush. I love the airbrush, absolutely love it, but this needs some good old-fashioned home cooking in order to get to it, particularly in areas where it's a little too dark. I'll have to take some orange in there, use some dry brushing techniques to get that going. But wow, airbrush, oh my god. I'm going to go watch a YouTube video on how to clean this thing now, the best possible way, so I make sure my equipment is very well maintained. And, well, I'll see you in future segments. Take care. Alright, I think that for right now, I'm going to pause for drying and whatnot. The times I've been peeking over here, I've been using the camera to see what my eyes might not necessarily be picking up with the white kitchen light and everything else. To me, that stem looks too green, way, way, way too green. So I might dry brush that down with something to mute it a little bit. The spray obviously had a hard time getting up and under. I think that I have sufficiently muted these rungs nicely, so I can't see the definite brown line that's coming up every time. In the future, I would be much more tempted to do the orange first and then take the brown and go over it, even though that's not normally what I would do with any kind of color stepping procedure. The trees, I like their effect. I like how they blend in, and I'm going to see what happens to them after I give them another dry brushing. And then apart from that, it's just down to what I can do with the horseman, and obviously a little bit of finish up underneath. But I'm going to give this a little time. Hopefully tomorrow night I can do the horse and the horseman, and we will see what we're able to hit. Alright. I hope it was good for you too, and we will see you again next session. I am going to continue to spin this around and look for places I screwed up for a while.